I'm starting a new series where I'm going to walk you through the books that I've read. And the books can be like fiction, non-fiction, classical, self-improvement, any type of books. And on the kind of like the first episode of this, I think I will call it like book series or something like that. We're going to cover the probably like my favorite self-improvement book of all time, at least to the point where like I've read tens of like self-improvement books, and this is still my favorite one. The book is 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson, and I've read it twice right now, and this is like one of the only books in my entire like bookshelf that is like, man, it has beaten up a little bit because it has traveled with me for like five different countries, but nevertheless, this book, I wouldn't even say it like it changed my life or something like that. It's like the impact that it's had on me is just, it is uncomprehendable. It's like those 12 rules, they guard my life right now. All of my actions, all of the things that I do, I try to sort of like filter them with those 12 rules. And I've also read the kind of like the sequel of this book, the Beyond Or, which I've read kind of like recently. Um, Beyond Or, I think I need to read it like one more time to understand a little bit more, so I won't cover it soon. But 12 Rules for Life, definitely. I This is kind of like a book that you need to read a couple of times in order to understand it. So in this video, I'm going to go through a couple of lessons that, oh, I'm going to go through all of the rules and all of the lessons that I've learned from this book. And so let's start with the first rule, which is about, let me just open it up. So 12 rules. Right? So rule number one: stand up straight with your shoulders back. So this, like, let me use something as like, yeah. So stand straight with your shoulders back. So what does it mean? Because the meaning of this particular rule, it is not even about your body language or your posture. So this is this like famous chapter where Jordan analyzes the behavior of lobsters. This is what Jordan is basically like famous for. It is for his love of lobsters. But what those lobsters actually mean to us is that they're relatively like small creatures. They have like, they're not that big, and they're not conscious, and they're not as smart as like, I don't know, humans. But one of the interesting things that they have is that vertical hierarchy, let's just say. And this hierarchy, it is mostly male, and what it is based on is something like confidence. It is the ability to fight. It is the ability to find food and shelter and all those things. And the lobster brain, the lobster hierarchy works exactly the same as the human hierarchy works. So with lobsters, when they engage in a fight, when two lobsters engage in a fight, they kind of like spill out their, I don't know, like their gas or something like that, which signalizes to the other lobster that, okay, I'm this, and this, and this, and this, and that's why you shouldn't mess with me. And that's where the fight starts. And by the end of the fight, the lobster who won the fight, he emerges as, of course, the victorious one. And he just walks around with like a much more confident body language. So I don't know, like his, what is the analog of arms and lobster? But let's just say like he has just a more confident body language. He just signalizes to our lobster that, hey, yes, I'm a winner. I'm the one who you should engage with. In terms like like let's just say like just basically live with and have kids with and etc etc. It's just basically he has that ability. He has now that ability to signalize to our lobsters that yes, I'm I'm better than the other lobsters are. But the more interesting thing happens with the second lobster who lost the fight. And that lobster, he's just he's just dreaded. He's totally what happens to him is just it is just tragic. He walks around with like this poor body language, with this poor posture, and signalizes to everyone that yes, I'm the loser one. I'm the one who has lost the fight. And so this hierarchy, it is very human alike. And I would even kind of rename this chapter as take responsibility for your life, not the stand up straight with your shoulders back, but it's like take responsibility for your life. Why? Because here's the thing, in order to be that victorious lobster, in order to be that lobster who gets all of the female lobsters, let's just say, you need to take responsibility for your life. You need to be able to engage in this human fight, and not just like, I'm not talking about like physical fights or something like that, but it's more like, okay, are you taking responsibility for your life? No. Why? Because I'm not good enough. I don't have the energy to do this. Like, no wonder why your life sucks. This is a basic self-improvement concept that like everyone raves about, and it is that you should take 100% responsibility for your life, for everything that happens that is at least like in your control. You should take responsibility for it. If you are getting paid like low wages, if you're just like, if you're poor and broke, it's like, yeah, you might blame this on your boss, but he's not the one who's responsible for that. Maybe you're just not skilled enough. Maybe you're not trained enough. Maybe you're not educated enough. It's like, yeah, go out and train some skills, like make yourself more valuable on the market, and then ask for a different wage, then ask for a different salary that is going to be higher. It's like you need to be competent first, and then you can ask for like more money to get. But the problem with being more valuable on the market, it is that you need to first take responsibility for your position on that market. If you don't take responsibility for how much money you earn, it's like, yeah, man, you're going to end up nowhere. You're going to end up absolutely nowhere. So the rule number one in this book, it is that take responsibility for your life. Take responsibility for everything that happens with you. So no one is responsible for your misery. Of course, there are external events that you cannot control, but we should focus on what we can control. And mostly, if your life is solely in just, if your life ended up in a miserable place, your contribution to your position in life is probably closer to 100, I would say. Maybe 80, maybe 70%. But if you just change at least 65 or 50 of those percent, like you might not be in this miserable position anymore. You might actually be in a pretty good life state. So it's basically the whole idea of this rule, of this chapter, is that take responsibility. Do something which is going to make you less miserable. If you are just a total like 1 out of 10, and I'm talking like 1 out of 10 on the bad scale, if you're just like totally broke, ugly, you're just a walking disaster, maybe if you took responsibility for your life, you could become a 2 out of 10. It's not a 10 out of 10. It's not like you're a superhuman or something like that. But it's better than 1 out of 10. The whole idea is take responsibility for your life. This is the basis of anything. So the second rule is treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. So the idea of this rule, and at the start of this rule, Jordan just brings up a pretty terrifying topic, I would say. And it is that humans are more likely to help their dogs than to help themselves. If your dog is, if the vet prescribes your dog some sort of like a medication, you're more likely to give your dog those medications than if your doctor would prescribe you some like medicine. You would basically you're more likely to give those medications to your dog than to yourself. And it is a pretty terrifying thing to understand, because like if you die because you haven't took the medication, your dog is going to die as well. So it's like nobody is winning from your irresponsibility right here. But it begs a question right here. It's like, why? Why do humans are so irresponsible? Why are they so? Why they're basically not doing the things that they should do? And then basically Jordan goes on a rant about a biblical story about God and Adam. I think I might this might be a different story, but the basic idea of this chapter is humans are to some degree miserable. You are probably miserable when you're left without anything, without your money, without your clothes, without your car, without your, I don't know, like apartment, without your friends, without your family. You're miserable. And so why would you help yourself? But this is the whole idea of this chapter, is that treat yourself like somebody you're responsible for helping. Treat yourself like you would like, and it might sound weird right here, but treat yourself like you would be your own, like you would be your dog, because you probably treat your dog better than you do yourself. And it doesn't mean that you should treat yourself in a way that you would be happy, because like if you would give candies to yourself every day, if you would just eat chocolate bars every day, like you would probably be to some degree happy. It's like in a short term, because like 20 years down the road you're going to be obese, but okay, in a short term thinking you're going to be happy, but it doesn't mean that you are now better. And so treating yourself like somebody you're responsible for helping means that you need to treat yourself like you're going you're like you would treat the best version of yourself. I like to use the sort of like the video game analogy right here, where you just almost like play from the third person's angle, that you're a character in a sort of like game, and you treat yourself as best as how do you even call it, as best as possible. Let's just use that word. So treat yourself like somebody you're responsible for helping. Do not make yourself in your own mind that miserable character, and actually do something which is going to help you. So rule number 3 in this book is make friends with people who want the best for you. Huh. Okay, so this is a timeless lesson, because I'm going to bring up a quote right here, that you're the average of the 5 people you talk to the most, or you spend time with the most. You get the idea. If you spend time with with walking disasters, you're going to end up in an absolute disaster. If you spend time with people who want the best for you, who are literally like they have achieved what you want in life, they have an upwards trajectory, you're going to end up being the if you're going let's just say you are going to spend time with like the 5 people who have like an upwards trajectory in their life, and who are good, and who have like good careers, and they have stable marriages, and they have healthy kids, etc. Like if you're going to spend it with those 5 people, you're going to end up the 6th one who has all of the goods, of their lives. As simple as that. So, one of the things that, let me open up this charter for a bit. Um, One of the things that Jordan talked about in this book, and yeah, at the start of this video, or at the start of this chapter, at the start of this rule, he talks about like his, this is basically a chapter about his upbringing in Fairview. I think this is how the town is called in Canada where he lived, and he basically talks about like the, how do you even call it, the generation of the people that he knew. So at the start, of course, like everything was fine. He went to school and there were like kids and they're like running around. So like, and as he grew older, he just started to see more and more of those kids that he knew become just tool degenerates. And by the end of this chapter, he talks about like how one of his friends, he moved to, I don't know, I think uh like I don't know, like I don't remember which city he moved in, but he moved in a quite like a big city in Canada, and the only thing that he did was that he took drugs and drank a lot. He drank a lot, and at that time, Jordan was already finishing his psychology degree. So you see the pattern right here occurring. Jordan, he has an upward trajectory. He's trying to achieve something in his life. So he goes to university and he tries to get a degree in psychology, which is going to, of course, like make him a good career. But the second guy, he's just like nobody knows what nobody even understands what he's doing. Like he's just drinking. And the problem right here is that you don't need to play the savior right here. I try to play the savior, the kind of guy who would like help everybody who has ended up in that position in life, where he's kind of like the guy who's drinking and just he I try to help the guys who have ended up in this like miserable position in life, who are just totally and utterly just asocial. I would use that word right here. And we've all been there. We've all tried to help the guys who are just, they're already doomed. And if they don't change their mindset and if they don't change their lives themselves, it's like nobody is going to help them, and they don't even really want your help. This is the problem right here. If you try to help someone who has ended up in a miserable position in life, the problem is that okay, if the person you are trying to help, if he ends up in a good position in life, if he ends up with, like, if he ends up as a better person, it's like whose win is that? Yours or his? And did he really want that? This is the problem right here. Did the other person really want your help? Questionable. This is questionable. But if he ends up in a more miserable position than he was before, so he tried, and then he failed, and failed spectacularly. It's like whose loss is that? Whose fault is that? Yours or his? So don't try, and this is honestly somewhat of a sad point right here. But this is something all of us need to understand, especially the guys who are on self-improvement. And it is that trying to help those guys who have already ended up just being some like tool disasters. Trying to help those guys, trying to help those, I would even call them degenerates sometimes. It is not going to give anyone any benefits and any rewards, just because like okay, he that if a person doesn't want to improve himself, you wouldn't improve him either. The fourth rule in this book is compare yourself to who were yesterday, not to someone else is today. So, ha, when I first read this book, I thought that this chapter was exactly it's like it is exactly what it says. It's like don't compare yourself to somebody else who is today, and especially from somebody who's like who's virtual, who's from the social media world, because if they don't show, of course, they don't expose their negative sides of their lives. But the second time I read this book, I got a completely different lesson from from this rule, and it's that have an upwards trajectory in your life. The problem is with comparing yourself to the people who you don't even know is that usually people try to expose their best sides, like their best sides. They don't try to, of course, they won't show their vulnerabilities and insecurities, etc. Like they won't do this. But the thing is, you are comparing yourself to their best sides, not to their worst sides. And of course, everybody has their ups and downs, not ups and downs, but everyone has their strong sides and their vulnerable, insecure, weak sides. And you're comparing yourself to the strong sides. And it's like a lot of guys who are especially red pills, who are on self improvement, they'll just see right here that yeah, human comparison is normal and it is healthy, and to some degree, yeah, I would say. But if you are in a tribe of hundreds and like 150 our guys, and like not our guys, and like if you are in a tribe of 150 people, and uh basically 75 of them are women and 75 of them are men, let's just say it roughly like that, you're comparing yourself to the guys who you know have bad sides of them, who you know like they're whose bad sides you know. So this comparison is more healthy. But if you are comparing yourself to like guys on social media who aren't even showing their bad sides, and like understandably so, huh, it's like you're not this comparison is not fair, to say the least. But that's exactly why you should have an upwards trajectory in your life. Have you done something better than you did yesterday? This is like the first part of this, the first part of the name of this chapter is compare yourself to who were yesterday. So have you done better than you have yesterday? Okay, maybe not yesterday, maybe like last month. Have you emerged better than you've been last month? Yes or no? Okay, if you need to get the answer, if the answer is negative, then you need to analyze, okay, what have I done wrong? This is the whole idea. You need to have an upward trajectory in your life which is based on your own progress. And this is where I'm going to say comparison is bad. Comparing yourself to other people, especially in this modern world, it is bad. Competing though with other people, it is something healthy. If you're not competing with anyone else, if you're not competitive on the economic market or on the dating markets, like if you're not competitive anywhere, you're just going to end up again miserable. This is why you need to be competitive. I'm not going to go on a full rant right here about like competition and comparison, because I have a lot of videos on my channel about this. But the general idea of this chapter is don't compare yourself to the people who you don't even know and whose bad sides you don't even they haven't even exposed them. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, to who you were last month, to who you were last year, and see, do you have an upward trajectory in your life? If no, then have it. So, rule number 5: do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. This is a chapter that this is a rule that I don't really need right now because, of course, I don't have kids. But This is a rule that made me think a lot about the state of the modern parenting. Here's the here's the thing. If your child misbehaves at an airport, what will you do? Really, like, what will you do? What would you do if your child would misbehave in an airport? Maybe not in an airport, maybe in just like a crowded place. Most of the modern parents, they wouldn't give a shit about this. They wouldn't do anything about their child's like tool, like their just absurd misbehavior, just simply because they would like to appear like their friends, not not their parents. And this is a massive problem, I would say. This is a massive problem right here. Why? Because if you are as a parent, if you're not responsible for your child's social position, at least to the age till the age of 4, you're going to end up as, let me bring up an example right here. Every single day when I like go to school, I see one kid who is like from the 5th grade, and he's just like, he's a quintessence of all of the sort of like bad parenting traits that you could even think of. He's asocial. He goes through the whole of the floor that I'm in. And this kid, he's like, I don't know, he's less than 10 years old, and he's just shouting out profanity, like literal profanity. He's just swearing at the whole corridor. And that's not good. And yeah, you might like, this begs the question, it's like, why has it happened? And the answer is, his parents really wanted to be friends with him. They didn't want to be his parents. This is exactly why you need to discipline your children, and not in a tyrannical way, but in order for them to be and part of social groups, in order for them to like play with our children. And if they're not socialized by the age of 4, it's like, yeah, you're going to have, this kid is going to have troubles in life, and he's going to have some like tough troubles. Because let's just say he's on the playground, a 4 year, like, I don't know, a 5 year old unsocialized kid is on the playground. What he's going to do is he's going to run to our kids, and he's just going to bite them. He's just going to like throw his toys at them. And of course, that's not normal behavior. But that's exactly why disciplining your children is so important. It is just simply to give them a good life. Because if they're not disciplined by the age of 5, by the age of 25, they're just going to be in yours basement, playing video games, eating junk food, drinking Coke Zero, and they're just going to be totally asocial. I don't know. They'll smoke pot, they'll drink alcohol, they'll they'll do drugs, like they'll do all of the asocial behavior that one could even think of doing. And this is a massive problem, that modern parents don't want to be parents to their children. They want to be friends. But being friends and being parents, it's like, it's no, it's two different things. And modern parents should be parents, not friends to their children. Not like those, like cute, nice friends who are going to give them candies and like going to approve any bad behavior of theirs. It's like, no, discipline them, make them actually socialized. Because if they're not socialized by the age of 4, as I said, they're going to have troubles, and those troubles are going to be huge. And so this is a very important topic right here. It's like, disciplining your children sounds tyrannical, eh? It's like, for me, it sounds tyrannical, but it's like, it's not the discipline in this like motivational David Goggins type of way, where it's like you need to wake up them at like 4:30 p.m. or something. It's like Are they actually capable of playing fairly with our kids? No. Why? Because I haven't taught them how. Okay, that's a problem. Are they somewhat at least comfortable on the stage? Are they at least like somewhat comfortable like speaking to our people, speaking to the crowd, speaking to the masses? No. Why? Because I haven't taught them how. And this is something that you can teach. This is something that, and not in this book, but I think Jordan talks about how he has managed to make his kids comfortable on the stage. And it is just basically he gave them some sort of like a text, maybe a poem, maybe like something else. And he just, okay, at first he leaves the room and they just talk about, like, they just read this poem out loud on, like, the, I don't know, standing on a chair or something like that. Okay, then he comes into the room, so he's the only one who's in the audience. They read it to him. Then his wife comes. Then his, I don't know, his relatives come. Then the whole village, and basically in an hour, his children can like manage talking on the bloody stage, something that most people cannot even do, something that most people are just so terrified of. But it's actually relatively easy to teach. And this is what blows my mind. It's like you just need to put a little effort. I'm not a parent myself, of course, like I'm 15 right now, so I don't know all of the underwater stones of that. But the problem is I would still discipline my children. You know why? Because I don't want them to have a bad life. So this is something that this is a rule that really got into my head for a long time, and this is something that a lot of modern parents will need to think about a lot. And so for today, let's cover the last chapter, half of the book. I'm going to make kind of like the second part of this video where I'm going to cover the rule 7, 8, 9, 10 of like all the hours. But rule number 6: set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. First of all, this is my favorite chapter in the whole book. This is my favorite rule out of all 12. And you know, the reason why is that it is not only about just cleaning up your rooms. Like, this is what Jordan Peterson is famous of. It's just recommending and just talking about why you should clean your room. And that's basic, but this chapter starts with an explanation of why life is hard, why life is meaningless, why life is tough. Sorry for my speaking right now. I've never spoke for like fucking 33 minutes on camera, so my throat is dry right now, but I'll try my best right here. So, why life is tough, why life is meaningless, why life is full of atrocities. This is basically, he talks about that in the first part of this rule. And let me open it up and read you something. So page number 147. Yeah, so right here. So basically, right here he talks, and this is a territory that I don't really want to step in, but it's something that I must do right here, and it is one of the Columbine boys. If you don't know who is that, like, Columbine was a school in the United States which was like brutally shot. Not the school itself, but the kids in this school. They were shot by two of the students in this school. I don't know, like, when it happened. Probably, I think it's here in the end of the 1990s or at the start of 2000s. Like, it was a total tragedy. And one of the Columbine boys, he had a journal in which he talked about basically his thoughts on the human existence. So let me read it to you. The human race isn't worth fighting for, only worth killing. Give the earth back to the animals. They deserve it infinitely more than we do. Nothing means anything anymore. This is one of the quotes from one of the, as I said, Columbine Boys Journal. And let me read out the second quote. If you recall your history, the Nazis came up with a final solution to the Jewish problem: kill them all. Well, in the case you haven't figured it out, I say kill mankind. No one should survive. It's like, I don't think I need to even comment right here on this thought pattern, let's just say, because it's not even nihilism. It's a it's one level. It's, I don't know, maybe not even one level below that, but you just think that the human race shouldn't deserve to live. This this is a foreign parent that this like, hey, if you think like that, it's like there is something wrong, to say the least, with you. And then he goes on to talk about um Leo Tolstoy. So Leo Tolstoy was a Russian writer and author in the 19th century, and I think he lived up to the start of 20th century. And the thing with him is that by, I think, the midlife, by his midlife, he had, I wouldn't say the same thought pattern, but he thought in a pretty nihilistic way. And I think, oh yeah, he has some quotes right here. So at the height of his fame, sorry, not the, I said at the midlife, but at the height of his fame, actually. At the height of his fame, influence, and creative power, for example, the towering Leo Tolstoy himself began to question the value of human existence. He reasoned in this way. So here comes the quote. My position was terrible. I knew that I could find nothing in the way of rational knowledge except a denial of life, and in faith I could find nothing except a denial of reason, and this was even more impossible than a denial of life. According to the rational knowledge, it followed that life is evil, and people know it. They do not have to live, yet they have lived and they do live, just as I myself have had lived, even though I had known for a long time that life is meaningless and evil. And this is basically the whole idea of the first part of this chapter, is that life is tough, life is meaningless, life is full of atrocities and disasters, life is dreadful, life is not worth living. And this is a brutal thought pattern. It's like, if you think in that way, as I said, it's like you're not certainly in a desirable position in life to be in. So this begs the question, what can you do about it? What is the thing that you can do about this position that you've ended up in? This disastrous, dreadful, meaningless, and atrocious position. What can you do about it? Clean up your life. This is the whole idea of this chapter. How about you clean up your life? How about you do something which is going to make your life less miserable? How about you clean up your room? Because I probably guess, if you think in that way, if you think in this nihilistic, cynical way, your room is, it is, to say the least, it is ugly, unclean, dirty, filthy, etc. Like, it is full of some like useless stuff. I don't know, like fucking empty chicken, fucking, I don't know, boxes, burgers, half drank colas. Just it's totally it's just a total mess. And so the way you counteract the life's hardness, the way you counteract the life the life's disasters is by cleaning up your life. And at the end of this rule, Jordan also has a somewhat of a really good fault pattern right here. So I'm going to read it out. And this is a topic about like why your life is not a topic itself, but this is the reason right here why your life is why you should take responsibility for your life, why you have ended up in this miserable position. And this is the exact, or this is sort of like the motivation to drive you to improve your life right here. So don't blame capitalism, the radical left, or the equality of your enemies. Don't reorganize the state until you have ordered your own experience. Have some humility. If you cannot bring peace to your household, how dare you try to rule? Say that is a really good point right here, because I see sometimes this is just something that blows my mind, that I don't know, a mayor runs for the city, but his own marriage, it is it is undesirable to say the least. So yeah, with this message to you, I'm going to end this video. I'm like sorry that for the last like I don't know like 20 minutes I have spoken in this inadequate drunk way, because like my throat is dry right now. But with that being said, the part two of this book, the part two of this video is coming soon, and I hope this will help you. And see you in the next one.